afternoon, everyone. My name is Scott Schertzen, alongside Mr. Obie Spencer, Mr. J.D. Walker, and Mr. Brandon Kaye, and welcome to the Sports Den on Spanglish World Network, Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app on the app stores of iOS and Android devices. When you download, kindly make sure to rate and leave a comment. Both apps are free, so you cannot beat the price there. By the way, last thing, Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 and forward. Gentlemen, welcome to the Sports Den once again. Thanks for coming out. How you doing?
I'm very excited to be returning. Work gave me a breather, so I'm here to talk sports. In case I didn't get enough off my chest last night, the day before that, or the day before that, or the day before that.
Welcome back. Obviously, work took over. I do want to give a special congratulations, by the way, Mr. Brandon Kaye down there. Congratulations. You had your first show yesterday, 6:30,
yes.
Talking basketball. By the way, what is the name of that show? Just so we're
That show is called Home Court Press.
Nice.
Which is nothing but basketball, both pro and college, which this time of the year is perfect.
Perfect. Yeah, congratulations, man. So 6:30 to 7 on Zingo TV, channel 250, every Monday. So congratulations, dude. We will be probably talking some basketball today. We'll be talking a little bit of football. There's been a flurry of activity in football and baseball. We will not be discussing one person's unretirement because Brandon did just get a show, and if he goes off on this, he may have a stroke, and we don't want Eduardo to have to find a new person for the time slot. So moving on from that, I did want to talk a little bit about the Denver Broncos because they were not done after the Eddie Russell Wilson. I don't know if you guys heard about this.
Heard what?
Wilson trade. I haven't heard the latest.
Yes,
okay. Randy Gregory is going to be signed.
Oh, I did hear that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is basically
after he bailed on Dallas.
And he basically thumbs his nose at Dallas. He ends up going to Russell Wilson's new territory and into a now increasingly competitive AFC West. My question for you guys, is that the toughest division in the NFL now?
Yes.
At this moment in time, yes.
Okay.
At this moment, the Broncos are making an awful lot of moves to probably move up from fourth place to third.
Mm-hmm.
Like they still have they still have arguably maybe the third best quarterback in that division,
but arguably the best defense in that division. So if football is a fully all around sport, they may split those games against those other teams and take care of both games against the Raiders. I mean, I think that they may only have the third best quarterback, but given the defense, especially with an ad like Randy Gregory, I'm not going to be like, oh, they're going to just be in third place because I'm not just going to rank them based on their quarterback's skill sets. Because last year, Wilson was probably the second best quarterback in his conference, and they came in fourth.
Now,
Wilson was also injured for a good chunk of the year, but Seattle's problems go far beyond the quarterback position. Gregory signing with the Broncos isn't that much of a surprise to me, mainly because Dallas is in salary cap hell and wouldn't have been able to re-sign him anyway.
Plus, I think his guarantee to be on the field at all times is not really very high. He's got issues where he can be in and out of the lineup, not so much for health reasons. So he is. It's a matter of can he stay on the field too. I think that's the biggest question with him.
That's been a problem with him since he dropped all the way down in the draft to the Cowboys. He has not.
Yes, this is pre-NFL.
Yeah. Can he stop smoking weed long enough to stay on the field for 17 games? And we'll see how he does. He did do it last year successfully, but he's older than I think a lot of people realize because he doesn't play full seasons. But overall, I think it's a good move for that defense. I don't think anyone would say otherwise. It is another loss for the Cowboys, who've now lost Gregory and Cooper and have gotten a fifth and a sixth round pick back. Now they have a lot of salary space. They're still going to have freed up. Maybe they can save some more of the guys that they have there and try to build a team. But, I mean, the question I really have is if Watson ends up somewhere, can Watson make a division better than the West, which is, I think, why I said right now they're the best. if Watson ends up on Indianapolis, does that make that division good enough? If Watson ends up on Cleveland, does that division become the best in football? To me, I think Watson ends up on Cleveland. That division, the AFC Central, is better than the AFC West. What do you guys think?
Well, let me ask you this: if you were to take Cleveland and Jacksonville, would they be better than any of the AFC West teams currently?
If Watson's on those teams,
No,
if Watson's on that, you're going to have Watson.
Maybe I would maybe Cleveland could rival like Oakland at the bottom, but certainly not Jacksonville.
Yeah, Jacksonville. Even
Jacksonville's atrocious, but on the other hand, you're still talking Lamar. I don't know. I think, and you have Cincinnati there, who, by the way, technically this year, last year was better than any team in the AFC. So I think Watson on Cleveland can be a huge difference maker that can propel them to be as good as any of the other teams in the league. I mean, that is why Watson's still being talked about, despite having 22 civil suits against him.
But then, does that leave the Mitch Trubisky-led Steelers? Would they be at the level of any of those AFC West teams or any of those other teams that signed Deshaun? I don't think so.
I think you don't think that the Mitch Trubisky-led Steelers. You think Mitch Trubisky has more question marks from his days at the Bears, where he had zero around him, than Carr does, who's had a lot around him.
Yes.
Trubisky threw 8 passes last year. And while in retrospect it looks like there's a lot more, it looks like that's more Matt Nagy's fault, what went down in Chicago. So I understand needing to take a flyer on him. But even I still think that it's a smokescreen, and that Pittsburgh might make a move to draft Kenny Pickett as well, and then go with whoever
and compete and have him compete.
And have them compete and whoever open competition, may the best quarterback win.
I think that is conceivable, but I think that I am not based on Carr's history. I'm not willing to put him above a Carr-led team, above a Steelers-led team by Trubisky with that running back situation. We'll see what the receivers turn out to be. And remember, the coaching factor is hugely in favor of Pittsburgh over the Raiders, who have another new coach coming in.
If Derek Carr was the Steelers quarterback today, would they be a favorite in the AFC?
Yes, because of their defense. And because of what's surrounding them. And
I still think Trubisky is far better to go into the season with than Mason Rudolph or anybody else that they have on the Steelers roster. So even to use it as a smokescreen, like you said, JD, that's something I would do too. I can't blame the Steelers for going after Trubisky, especially after these bigger quarterback dominoes have fallen.
I expected the Steelers to make a move for Jimmy Garoppolo. And I was surprised that they went for Trubisky instead. But once I thought about it, the only way I would go into the season with Trubisky is if I also have somebody else there. I would not put all the eggs in that basket.
I feel like that Garoppolo, despite getting the wins in the playoffs last year, looked no better than an average quarterback. So if you tell me I can get an average quarterback, Trubisky costs me no. And can I feel that Trubisky's an average quarterback? I guess I can think that him and Jimmy G are both average, and say that Jimmy G has had better coaching around him, possibly better offensive weapons, definitely better defense. So whatever that average quarterback that they were going to get, they didn't have to invest in, whereas Jimmy G was going to cost them assets, and Garoppolo Trubisky just cost them money. I mean, that's why Trubisky was such a high priority for many teams. He was the cheapest asset to get because he didn't cost anything other than money versus, whatever it took to get, like losing Noah Fant. Like, that's going to hurt Denver. I know we're talking about how good they're going to be, but we all have to remember that Noah Fant was a key component coming into his third year as a tight end. He was going to be looked at as one of the top 5 tight ends in the league, having that kind of potential. Instead, they went, we'll get rid of him. That's a huge piece to get rid of. Welcome back, boss man. Good to have you here. We covered a little bit of
just to clarify. I just want to clarify one thing. You didn't hear the expletive-laden, diatribe that I had, right?
No, you were gone.
None of that.
Okay, good. Because that would have been a problem. Because if you did hear some of that, and I appreciate you letting me know. Yeah, I had all sorts of words that basically you can't say on public television. So, well, maybe you can. I mean, in some cases you can.
Having some technical difficulties.
Oh God! Tomorrow I'm spending all day just cleaning house and figuring out what's going on with this. But yeah, I can go off on that. But we're going to move forward and let the past be the past. So, how we doing? So
we're doing well. We're doing well. We got into what happens if Ken Watt is it. Let me change the question. I'll pose it to Scott differently than I pose it to you guys. Is there a team that Watson can land on that if he lands there makes that division better than the AFC West? So it's the opposite of what you asked us.
First of all, I don't think he's got it in the tank being a year away from the NFL. So you have to assume at this point that it's going to take some time to be able to get back into proper playing shape. Secondly, is there a division? Maybe the NFC West, maybe. But, I mean, really, when it comes down to it, I mean, if you look at what the AFC West is, you have a potential, you have pretty much one to two guaranteed Hall of Famers there. You have a potential future Hall of Famer in Justin Herbert. So I don't think you can. I don't think basically Deshaun Watson makes that much of an impact. Does he have the ability to maybe get a team into the postseason? Yes. But does he have enough to be able to take a division and outclass the AFC West? No, I don't think any division would. Also, definitively, you don't know how much backlash some issues. Some fans may have an issue. And some groups may have an issue with the fact that Deshaun Watson's coming on that team.
I was about to say the same thing.
Yeah, I, for one, breathed a small sigh of relief when I found out the Giants were not going after him.
So then the Cowboys should go after him. They're used to that.
The Cowboys usually do end up in some ways going after somebody like that, yeah.
Cowboys, Raiders, there's a few teams that usually go after the reclamation projects one way or another.
Even the Jets. They had Michael Vick for a while.
Yeah, but Philly already took the brunt of the heat.
That's true.
For Vic,
and then Pittsburgh at the end, I think.
Yeah, and
by the time
plus Vic was a backup, and if you didn't really pay attention too much, you wouldn't even realize he was there. I think he only played in 3 games.
By the time
he did start a few as an injury replacement for the Jets that one year, but they were so far out of it that he's paying attention.
By the time Vic left Philadelphia, only the hardcore people involved in that's the thing that they were after, followed Vic around, drummed up some anger, and then it faded. Watson, I think, may have a bit. I am shocked by the number of teams that have actually gotten to talk to Watson at this point.
I am too.
He's meeting with Cleveland today.
I mean, regardless of the of the criminal charges not being filed, there's still the civil cases and still the bad PR of having a person accused of such things associated with your team that will be an immediate black eye to whichever organization does get him.
And in this case, I think what Deshaun Watson has been accused of in some ways, I think could be, the majority of people would construe as worse than what Michael Vick did. I think 64.
I mean, both are bad. I mean, there's no shortage of. Let's be honest. There's no shortage of, shall we say, undesirable humans in the NFL to one extent or another. So all of these allegations for all of these players involved with that are are pretty bad and aren't treated as seriously as they should be.
I would just like to say, with the number of people that are in the NFL, we are also not at all short for people who are more than desirable. I just want to put that out there. That
one side,
a lot of times we cover the horrific folks or the horrific accusations like those against Deshaun Watson, but there are many folks who are quietly doing amazing shit, and that's why you have the Walter Payton Man of the Year award and multiple people on teams fight for that award. But I digress.
At the end of the day, the negative stuff is always going to outweigh as far as
Right.
what is newsworthy. The negative always outweighs the positive.
Absolutely. Which is why, back to Deshaun Watson, I am shocked. I think it's been 4 teams have met with him. Saints, Cleveland's on deck, and 2 other teams. I cannot remember which ones. And what I've been hearing is you do not meet with a player on a trade deal like this unless you intend to offer the team a trade. So that's 4 teams. I think are going to offer Houston a trade for him.
I think once they found out that everything was now in civil court, then the sweepstakes for Watson are starting. Because at that point, the backlash for civil is nothing. I don't even know if it'll be much of a talking point, much of a story, once even training camp starts and the preseason stuff. So the jump from being criminal to civil, I think a lot of people are like, okay, like that's like fine by us.
It's fine until Goodell throws a hammer down on a personal conduct suspension. Because that's I mean, regardless of if it's criminal or not, just the nature of the allegations will warrant some sort of NFL suspension. How many games? Who knows? But there's going to be something. Probably. Probably in the 4 to 6 to 8 games range. So you're also, if you're making this deal, which frankly I think that isn't enough, but that's a different can of worms. But so yes, you're going to give up a lot of collateral for a player with baggage who would probably be immediately suspended for a big chunk of the season. So that's what any team that takes on Watson would be facing.
Yeah.
And then, to Scott's point, maybe rusty when he comes back. So now you get him for your hope that you're in the playoff contention. So now, if you're interested in Watson, you want to be, you want to be in the division where you're playing for the wild card and you're only chasing one team. So you like New Orleans getting him because they're only playing one team who has this quarterback whose name shall not be mentioned. Cleveland, on the other hand, probably is facing at least 2 teams in Baltimore and Cincinnati. Who knows what the Steelers will look like with an average quarterback? And I don't know like I said, I don't remember all the other teams that they have confirmed have met with them.
Atlanta's in there too. Did you guys mention Atlanta?
Atlanta wants to trade for him.
Yeah, Atlanta.
And
Jacksonville.
That's a surprise given the amount that they have invested in Matt Ryan. And I didn't think that
Ryan's getting old.
Space.
Well, if you can get rid of Ryan in the deal, then you're good to go.
I don't know. I don't see him leaving under a trade necessarily.
Who did the Colts just sign?
Nobody.
Or did they not? Nobody. Okay.
They haven't signed anybody yet. They just they dumped
Wentz.
They dumped Wentz.
Right.
To
could they be a team that goes after Watson? I think they would use his services very well.
I think the problem for that is there was a talk of that. I think they are one of the teams that met with him, but I think the concern is, of course, that's in division. Do you want to trade Watson?
Houston would never trade him within the division, so you can immediately take the Colts off the table.
If you forgot to trade, that's true.
There's also only a few teams that could even fit him under the salary cap with that monster deal that he has.
But yeah, in his case, not having played since 2020, though, that's honestly forgetting the off the field part of it. I mean, that's your biggest concern. Is how rusty is he going to be? I see a little bit of Colin Kaepernick in the same sort of thing where that amount of time that you're away from the game and the distraction. I don't think any team is going to sign him. I really don't.
So
somebody will be desperate enough. It's just a matter of which team it is.
I agree with JD. He's getting signed, but one of the things about him is he's being treated like and we are talking about him. He's got the money. People are acting like he is an Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes. He's on your team. You're making the playoffs quarterback. They won 4 games the last year with him.
Mhm.
And I understand that football's a team sport, and you got to put other guys around the player. But Nook was there around that player, and he won 4 games. And there's something to be said that is okay. He may not be as good as we want to pretend he is, but I think he's going to go for a lot. I think some team's going to get him. They're going to have to absorb a lot of backlash. They're going to lose some fans, and some fans will be even more into it, and it's going to be a tricky situation. I don't see Scott being right here. I see JD being right, but it's going to be an interesting cost, because when I'm willing to take that guy off your hands, I'm taking a lot. Am I going to get as good as a deal as they got for Wilson? Like, he may be a player Wilson in somebody's mind, but he's got a lot of money and a lot of baggage.
And additionally,
I don't think Houston is going to get back nearly as much as they think for him. That's also part of it, is that Houston's asking price, especially given all the circumstances, is way too high.
Now, in this case also, let's pick a team for argument's sake. We'll say the Browns. Just say, hypothetically, the Browns sign him and everything like that. And if he does well, how do the fans handle that? And if he does poorly, how do the fans react to that?
If you get him and he misses 6 games and comes back and plays like crap in the next 4, you may never
whatever his level of play
is again. You may have
whatever his level
team.
of play is will be the level of excitement or disappointment in the fans.
But you could be in a situation where you have to sell the team as the owner, because as long as you're the owner, nobody's coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're horrible. My spouse, let's put this in a heteronormative relationship, whatever. My wife's like, you did what? You're rooting for that guy?
Yep.
And they no, you're not. No, you're not getting your Sundays free. And now they're losing. So I don't even want my Sundays free. That is a chance that you're taking that ownership team, if it goes south, may be forced to sell the team in order to get fans back into whatever stadium it is in.
With how bad the Cleveland, with how bad the Haslams are at running the Browns, that may actually be a positive in the long run if they sell the team, and Browns fans would probably welcome that.
Oh, Browns fans would definitely welcome that. But that may be what it takes to reinvigorate a fan base if he comes and he stinks it up.
And then also to take it a step further, let's say he's acquitted of all of this, and then he sets a toe out of line later for anything, even maybe anything above, say, DWI, but even then, depending on that circumstance, he is on such thin ice to begin with.
They find him at a strip club, a completely legal activity.
Mm-hmm.
They find him with another female, this guy's got to get male masseuse therapist from here on out. Like, that's it. If you're doing this for your muscles, you got to get the male massage therapist. That's it. No, you can't get seen with one. And if it's true, it's probably a habit that you can't quite break.
Mm-hmm. When you get that kind of coin, but
yeah.
There's I don't know. To me, any team that takes him, it's too much of a risk for far too little reward.
I mean, look at what happened. I would say that. I mean, look at what happened with Kaepernick and all of the backlash around there. While you might not have it to that level, it would be up there for any team.
It'll be bigger than that.
Yeah, I mean, from some ways, from some groups it would be louder, and some groups less.
A lot of the public supports Kaepernick. Very, very little of the public supports Deshaun Watson here.
Yeah, right. I'm going to say though, there are a group of people that would say what Kaepernick does, they hated more than what Watson did.
Yes,
which is terrible to say. Which is terrible to say, but that's true.
But there is nobody.
I'm trying to think the best way to say that, but Brandon is absolutely right.
There is nobody who's going to cut. Like, some people might say that Watson's crimes are less bad than Kaepernick's crimes, but there's other people who say,
although what Kaepernick did wasn't actually a crime.
Yeah, right. But just the whole act, whether illegal or illegal, there are people that don't like Kaepernick and that for more
crime.
But I think the majority
crime. But
I think, go ahead.
But I don't think there's anybody who would say what Watson did, if he did it, wasn't a crime. And that is why I think there's more people lined up against Watson.
There are people that do feel that way.
Of course. There's always people that feel something about anything. That's just humanity being what it is. But my point being is that I think, if you sat down with 1,000 people and you said, this is Deshaun Watson, this is Colin Kaepernick, which one do you hate more? 80% at minimum would say Watson, at a minimum.
I don't know about that.
80, honestly, that seems a little high.
That seems high.
The way people think, it's nuts. It's nuts. And the outcry, all this Kaepernick stuff, people were getting ridiculous with this Kaepernick thing. I don't, with the Watson thing.
Obi, that's a poll that's worth throwing out there, I think.
Yeah. Who do you... Yeah. It's a tough poll because I think some of the people who don't like Kaepernick, I think it would be a very high percentage because I think, especially if it's not like if you're sitting down asking them, there might be people who are angry at Kaepernick but embarrassed to be angry at Kaepernick, but no one's going to be angry at being embarrassed about. I just think what Watson did is more. There's less gray area there, like JD said, assuming the worst, and again air quoting on crimes.
You know why?
There are people who literally support what Kaepernick did and said he did a good thing. You'd be pretty ballsy to come out and go, oh no, calling up somebody who advertises himself as a masseuse and expecting to be a hooker, that's a good thing. Like, I don't think that's somebody who, there's a lot of people that like, of course, you're a professional athlete getting a massage. You would expect it to be a flippy floppy and not a legitimate muscle massage.
Have you looked at the internet lately? There are people who would try to downplay those allegations.
Have you been on Reddit and Twitter?
There are people.
Just if there's anything the past few years have proven, is that when you think humanity has gone low, it can go lower.
And also, what Watson did or didn't do only affected him. What Kaepernick did affected the league.
His victim. The way that it occurred for that. Yeah.
Right.
The league affected all sports. It affected the world. I mean,
well, right. But just in the NFL, Watson's situation only bothered him. Only affected him and maybe the Texans. But what Kaepernick was league wide felt, and it was impact through all, like you said, through all the sports.
You guys, no wrong answer. I'm really curious here. You guys legit think that it's closer to 50-50 nationwide? I would love to do a poll on this. And just poll 10,000 people
65, 35-ish.
I wouldn't be comfortable throwing
60-40.
You know what?
Yeah, it's...
I will tell you what, Scott. Here's the thing. If you don't... I would say it's closer to 50-50 because, as I'm thinking about this, we aren't eliminating football fans. We aren't eliminating people who know who they are. Everybody knows who Kaepernick is. Not everybody knows who Watson is. Now, if we take it down to football fans and people who know who both people are, I'm along your line, Scott. I think it's like 80-20. I think it's like 80-20.
My point and my question in this case here, what I'm really curious about is, Twitter might have some responses, but I think Reddit would be a much better avenue. My question is, where would I put it on Reddit to say, okay, I could put it in the NFL one, or I can put it in humanity. I don't know.
I like the NFL one because to me, I think this is an NFL based question because like I said, I think there's a certain amount of people who know who Kaepernick is. If the question was, do you know who Kaepernick is? Do you know who Watson is? I think many more people would know who Kaepernick is than know who Watson is. Then, if you know who Kaepernick is and you don't know who Watson is, you only can hate one of those two guys. I would do NFL Reddit.
This would actually be a great thing for just to do plug my folks here. Seton Hall actually has a sports polling center. So just like, and I believe they did have a Kaepernick related poll, but they have a sports polling, Seton Hall sports polling, much in the way you have Quinnipiac and Marist and Rutgers, Eagleton doing political polls. Yeah, it's like they do. I did that when I was a student there, and about various topics. Oh, you'll get some fun replies from people. That'd be. I know they did a Kaepernick poll. I don't think they've done anything on Watson. But I would love to see those put in together. But through. I call not it for weeding through what comes out of either place, Twitter, Reddit, or anyone else. I'm
putting it up on Reddit now. Actually, having this debate now. Whose actions were worse, Kaepernick taking a knee or Deshaun Watson allegations? Please settle this. Thanks.
Strap on a hazmat suit and navigate through for that. Good luck to you.
You're okay if I post this?
I would honestly word that a little differently.
Yeah, that needs to be. We need
because
to
you're saying that what. It falls into the same realm, which they don't. I would say
whose actions were...
I would say are people bothered more
there we go. Okay.
Yeah.
By Kaepernick's actions
Are you,
opposed
not
to
people. Are you.
Well right. Are you, but I'm just saying are the people right.
Okay. So are you more bothered by Kaepernick taking a knee or Deshaun Watson's allegations? Please settle this. Does that work?
Yeah.
All right,
if true.
That works.
If true.
Okay.
If true.
All right. So this is what we're doing with our show today. We're just going to basically do a Reddit post.
I think that this for the fact that we've now spent 30 minutes talking about the NFL offseason,
yes,
and about quarterbacks moving teams, potentially moving teams, and their legal issues. More than sports that are actually on the court or field playing at this point in time, I think is an exact microcosm for why the NFL is so far and beyond ahead of all the other sports in America, where just off-season drama, heck, some of the off-field stuff is more interesting than what happens on the field in a lot of these games. But just this kind of soap opera of will they or won't they? Will this player go to this team? Will
they end up together?
Houston grand jury proceedings. This is just, and we haven't said a single word about other sports that are currently playing. It just that shows the power of what the NFL is.
Oh yeah,
and for better or worse. I mean, it's astounding to me. We have narcissistic diva quarterbacks who, tweeting their thoughts, immediately dump on the what I call the most wonderful time of year of March Madness, and then you have narcissistic divas that don't know how to go away who just come and dump all over that and take all the headlines away.
Or Brockmire actors that moved from Fox over to ESPN.
Yeah. Which announcer is going into this? So
yes,
but
less is more in that case because it is March Madness time.
Mm-hmm.
All 64 actually formally get underway. However, it's going to work out tonight, tomorrow, Thursday. So officially on that. So in this case, because I know this is something that's right up your alley, both of you guys, turning it over to you.
To who?
So
to the basketball guy, the guy wearing the culture.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, we have Gonzaga as the number one overall all seed, followed by Arizona, Kansas, and Baylor in their respective regions. We have for the locals to our area, we have Seton Hall playing TCU in an 8-9 game and probably playing Arizona in the second round. Rutgers plays tonight or tomorrow night in the play-in round in Dayton, where they play Notre Dame.
I believe it's tonight.
Yes, so Rutgers is playing tonight, and they will be playing, and the winner of that one plays Alabama. So and St. Peter's making the tournament for the first time since 2011. So that is 3 New Jersey teams in the NCAA tournament for the first time since, I believe, 2001.
Jersey represent.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was a dark few years for dark few decades.
it doesn't apply to one of us here, but.
As a matter of fact, there was an article in the on the New Jersey AM radio station's website apologizing to Rutgers University for laughing at their sports teams for the last decade, and as opposed to having been supportive, and congratulating them on making the tournament. It was a fun article because the guy's like, you probably don't know me because really I don't like sports to begin with, but I do like to make fun of Rutgers, and that's inappropriate. You've now made the tournament 2 years in a row. So, I mean, I am excited about that. I know that we will be having our own bracketology, so we'll be able to talk about our personal standings next week. But as of right now, my bracket will severely change if Rutgers does not beat Notre Dame, because I'm all in at least until they face the Blue Devils on my home team, because go with your head, go with your heart.
All right.
I certainly am in my bracket as well, and with although Arizona is a national championship contender, their starting point, they did just lose their starting point guard. I watched the Pac-12 final Saturday night, and I wasn't that impressed. Arizona is quite good, but they're beatable. They reminded me, they seemed like they were better than UConn, but not as good as Villanova. With as tough of a conference as the Big East is, there are no easy outs. Not even, Seton Hall struggled to beat Georgetown, who didn't win a single game in the Big East. So there are so many good teams that every team is a battle. Big Ten has a bit less of that, where it's very top heavy, and the bottom and there's a lot at the bottom. Rutgers also lost out of conference games to UMass and Lafayette. I believe they had the highest net number, the net efficiency rating, which is used as a guide for seeding tournament for the committee to seed tournament teams. But there isn't, aside from maybe Gonzaga, there really aren't dominant teams throughout the country. I mean, there's a lot of good. The number one seeds are pretty clear, but the 2 and 3 seeds aren't really far behind them. You could make a case for about 10 or 12 teams that could possibly win a championship.
You mentioned Gonzaga after what happened last year. I mean, that final was kind of embarrassment in some ways. How does that affect in this case? How does that carry over?
You get blown out. Yeah. You get blown out.
I mean, Butler just owned that pretty much start to finish there. How do you take that, and then realize that, okay, that was last year, this is this year?
Gonzaga is a machine where they just go out and do what they do every year. They've knocked on the door a few times. They've made it. The knock was always, they make the tournament every year. They don't go far. They've now made the national championship game twice in the past 5 years. So they'll break through. And also, it's not like Baylor was a bunch of scrubs. It wasn't like Villanova beating Georgetown in '85, coming out of nowhere.
66-62, I think that was final.
Baylor was right up there with Gonzaga all of last season. So and they're back up there again this year. So just while it's you can talk about a team being undefeated going into the tournament is a rarity. No men's basketball team has finished the season undefeated since Indiana in '76. So there will always be more discussion around that. But Gonzaga is just as close to an automatic as you can get.
I think
the discussion among Seton Hall fans all week, for the last few weeks, realizing that the team would probably fall into the 7, 8, 9 seed range like they do seemingly every time they make the tournament. The joke was that about how Jeff Fisher said, I don't want 7 and 9 garbage from this team. Seton Hall gets the same 8-9 garbage every time because they're always such an up and down team, and have struggle for long stretches of the season. But for the last few weeks we were talking just we don't want to end up in the same pot as Gonzaga and just be cannon fodder in the second round. So whoever does that cannon fodder went to Boise State or Memphis in that area. I think Gonzaga is a Final Four team again and probably back in the championship game.
Certainly,
I have Gonzaga. I have Gonzaga in the championship game.
I think that could, like last year, to JD's point, it was Gonzaga and Baylor all year, all the way. Baylor had a brief stumble in the post-COVID game, but that was so easy to predict what was going to happen. Not predicting it was, just to be. I didn't predict it just to be different and hope to get lucky, but did not feel like that was the safe way to go. This year, you have much more up in the air. But I kind of like the idea of Gonzaga getting through Duke specifically, going on and winning, and making the next 30 to 40 years being the Duke of the next. We had UCLA, then we had Duke. With all due respect to Kentucky, who was around in both those generations. But I just feel like it's Gonzaga's time, finally. And 20, 30, 40 years from now, we'll be talking about, the next, great coach, great program overall that we've seen. Because at first they were just like this team that would just win games. That you're like, how are they even in the tournament? And then once everyone got onto them, then they started losing games when they should win them. And now they're finally getting to the finals. Now they're finally losing when they should lose. Like, they're like a 1 seed losing to a 2 or a 3, or they're So I like them. I actually have them picked to win the national championship. And I think it's finally time for Gonzaga's decades. Saying that, knowing that NIL is going to change everything for everybody. So who the heck knows what any of these sports will get to in the next decade. That will be quite an interesting stirring of the pot.
It's the amount of money that is thrown around by the football schools and the Big Five football conferences relative to the non-basketball schools like Gonzaga, like the Big East. It's not even on the same planet anymore. You just look at the amount that is being thrown around for coaching salaries, and it's incredible. And I'm personally, as a fan of a non-football school, that already struggles to keep up with their peers. I don't even know how it's possible, but NIL is an equalizer, there will be more money to spread around, but also at the same time, just money talks. And you have enough money over a long enough period of time. It's hard to overcome that. I mean, you'll see that, and also having and spending a lot of money doesn't necessarily equal success. Rutgers until the past few years, and so there's it's. The tournament itself.
To that point, a school like NYU that never had anything, but now I can go to New York and get New York money for, and New York, the whole thing, everyone's going to go to the Knicks. Well, now you can go to New York and get an NIL in New York where, some little company might be just like, whatever. I'm down in the village. I know that I'm a bong shop down in the village, but I got $2 million to throw at some kid. It's worth it. And all of a sudden kids are like, I can go to New York, play basketball at NYU. There are going to be structures that are not thought of where people are going to just be like, I have money to spend and I need someone to give it to advertise, and I want to help my school that I came to. Everybody who goes to Oregon is going to be like, I have a Nike contract now.
Yeah. I mean, you already
forget NYU. What about a St. John's?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like a school that's traditionally good in basketball.
Yeah.
Something like, Paige Beckers, before she even played a single game for the UConn women's team, already had millions of Instagram followers. So for monetizing streaming and other new media it is also it also factors into NIL. So for players that can get or anybody that has good social media followings for whatever reason, they can monetize that, and that's the great thing about NIL is the fact that while the NCAA and college football and basketball in particular, everybody has been making billions of dollars except for the players. And they're now finally getting a piece of that pie, and it's long overdue.
We talked about this. I think privately. I think we talked about the fact that they can start being able to do something now, to enhance their own personal brand, and that's a big part also. And one of the advantages I think basketball has, and I think maybe, and let me know what your thoughts here are. I think also the NCAA is looking at the fact that they're losing out on money because so many players are now skipping college, and going right to, the NBA, especially as an example, but are, dropping out of college early to go into the NFL draft. Baseball, I mean, college baseball is almost a shell of what it used to be. And I think a lot of it is they're looking at, how do we entice people back in?
So I know you and I had a little conversation about this also, like, if you go, you make enough during NIL and you really don't like your sport, you don't have to keep playing your sport. But I really think that the big winner from NIL, back to your point now, Scott, as I've been thinking about this more and more, and maybe my opinion will change over time, is going to be baseball. Because now kids will go to college because they don't have to do this. You almost cursed there. The life of the AAA single A guy. They can get paid to play baseball at a reasonable level, live in a nice dorm room, which, okay, dorm rooms aren't nice, but they're nicer than what we hear about these other kids. When they travel, they'll travel nice. They'll probably get to go to Hawaii, whatever. So it makes for a better situation. And for those of us who actually read Moneyball and don't, one of the things that he came up with is like, I may not get a better player by picking a college kid, but I can predict the success of a college kid better than a high school kid. So they'll have more kids that are going into college. They'll be able to predict their abilities higher and be able to draft them better. And since they'll have a little money, they won't necessarily have to ride around in a cramped bus and sleep in some horrible situation because they'll have these NIL deals already in place. And like Scott was saying, if they already have an Instagram, like there's just so much. But baseball could get like the guys who went to football because they have enough money base to be comfortable. So now your quarterbacks like Wilson and Murray say, I'm going to take my shot at baseball because I have a little nest egg. In baseball, I'll be able to play longer and not get hurt and not get concussions. Baseball, the MLB needs to look at NIL and figure out how to maximize that for themselves to undercut their minor leagues so that they can get these guys to go to other sports instead.
The difference is there's a big difference in that. Why I don't really agree. While the thing is with football and basketball in particular, the colleges almost function like the minor leagues for those sports. That's changing in the NBA as they try and build up the G League. They're really, and we'll see what happens with spring football leagues like the USFL going forward. But the colleges essentially are the minor leagues for the NFL. And college baseball is a fraction, like not even pennies.
Yes,
compared
totally
to
agree.
that.
This is the opportunity for that to change because there's money to be made at a higher level in college baseball if you're getting NIL involved.
Oh, but also as a result, the competition level is not the same in colleges. Also in big parts of the country, college baseball is just not viable. Where it's the gap between teams in the Northeast and between players and schools in the South and West is huge. Those concerns are exactly why a player like Mike Trout out of South Jersey fell to the middle of the first round because the thought was, coming out of New Jersey, the weather stinks in the winter. He's not playing all year round like kids are from the South and West are, and that's why programs like Rutgers, like Seton Hall, And Title IX has also been in effect, where a lot of schools have dropped baseball programs. So college baseball needs to build the whole sport up as a whole. NIL's a piece of that, and that might make it more attractive for certain players. But also they get more players from outside the U.S.
But so Mike
Gymnastics is a huge sport in college.
baseball
will benefit from NIL because Olympians will now be able to play.
College baseball, and I think for the most part with softball too, all the powerhouse teams and schools are in the South or out west, where the weather they can play baseball all year round. Where, like you say, Bryce and any of these or Trout, any of these northern guys, they're being found late just because they're not with these powerhouse schools. Like, to be honest with you, I can't name one college that any major baseball players went to.
LSU, Miami.
No, I'm just saying, like if you gave me a player, I can't say which, but that's part of it, because the importance of college baseball doesn't exist in terms of getting to the pros. But with NIL,
it's getting a scholarship at college.
Right. If you even want to throw the gambling now into it, where college baseball and pro baseball has a chance to revive itself.
Also, college baseball does not have full scholarships available. You can, the key is, in football and baseball, players thinking I can go and get a college scholarship. But scholarships are there's only, I believe, something like 11 or 12 scholarships available for a baseball team with a roster of 25. So they go fractional. So the money, and including scholarship, is not available in baseball like it is.
Okay, so everything you said was today's environment, which is why I'm saying that Mike Trout is the perfect example. He got into East Carolina, but if you there was no money to be made there. But if you say, hey, Mike Trout, come to us, you're going to get some NIL deals, you're not going to have to putz around the minor leagues. And in addition, what I'm telling you is that baseball players are easier to predict their success level when they've gone through college. So I think there will be incentives from major leagues not to invest the money and to get college and NIL deals up and change the landscape. And that's my point. The landscape is changing because of NIL, and I think that baseball, both the pros and college, have an opportunity to really leverage that. And that's all I got for today, because I know we got like 2 minutes left for the show.
That's all I got to say about that.
That's all I got to say about that.
So, all right. So thank you guys, as always, for tuning in. I appreciate that. We got a couple minutes, but any final thoughts from you guys real quick?
Do we want to throw out our championship picks?
Okay.
Do we want to do that?
I was about to say the same thing.
Okay, I'll go I'll go Final Four and then championship game with the winner. So I have Gonzaga, Kentucky on the one side, Arizona and Iowa. Look for Iowa on the other side. Gonzaga, Iowa, with Gonzaga cutting down the nets.
All right.
I closed mine up. I apologize, but I am taking Gonzaga. I do not know the rest. Apologies.
It's okay. Yeah, I'll have to do the same. But JD, you want to go?
I have Gonzaga. I forget who I picked in the East bracket. And then we have Villanova and Iowa on the other side, and Gonzaga over Villanova in the final. I didn't pick Kentucky in the East. I don't even remember who I picked, but I don't think it was Baylor. It was somebody else.
Maybe UCLA.
Well, I had Baylor. I Gonzaga playing Baylor, a rematch of that game.
Yeah. Gonzaga over Villanova for probably the last time a non-football team will be in the final.
And for me, it was Texas Tech. I decided to go a little bit of a dark horse in this particular case, but I figured, you know what? It's time for, I believe, a 3 seed to get in there. So anyway, that's going to do it in this case here. Thank you guys as always for tuning in. I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. J.D. Walker, Mr. Obi Spencer, and Mr. Brandon Kaye as well. Tune in tonight, 7 o'clock. We have Tales from the Film Set, me, Ryan, JT, and as always, Mr. Robert Leckington as well. That'll be right here, wherever you're watching this. So till then, thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate it. Find us on Twitter at SSW Sports Den and also on Facebook and Instagram at Spanglish World Sports Den. I'm Scott. You know these guys already. Have a great night. Stay awesome.